That's an important thing for me to remember.
My parents live just a half-mile down the road from Ralph's.
Into the van.
We've decided to go and check out the house I was born in.
Which is so very glad. We just got shit on by that raven.
Just shit on you?
Yeah.
Well, that's a favorite place, I guess, for them to do that.
Now, back in the old days, none of these houses were here, right?
In the old days, no. This house was built.
Or that one, or that one.
Or that one. No, there's a new house here, a new log cabin. Have you seen that yet?
I'm in a dream.
Like the old days.
Life is but a dream.
In the old days, now there were trees on both sides of the road, and the branches were coming over here.
That's right.
Those have all been cut down, and the wires have been put in now, and this has all been opened up, and
it's modern.
And it's modern, yeah.
A lot has changed in Mitchell Bay since the 1960s. But the mark of the Americans who came to Canada during the Vietnam War is still indelibly here.
We brought in skills, we brought in approaches, ways of doing things that other people had never done before. And some were amazed at it, and some were just appalled at it. I let my hair grow long because that was the thing to do at the time. An old woman, I remember in the post office, came up to me and she says, "Can I touch your hair, please?" Because it was long hair and she had never done that. You know, she had never seen men with long hair before.
Do you remember the name of this little island?
In California, it was very hard to live through the 60s and not go somewhere where your own intelligence could continue to grow and flower and you could become whoever you were going to become. So there was these American immigrants who had a lot of feeling of self-determination. This society benefited quite a bit by being stimulated, by having some of the more humanitarian stuff triggered by these people who were war resistors, and just by the general educational level that immigrated here, that just came across that border.
Estimates range that approximately 100 to 125,000 resistors came to Canada during the Vietnam War. The exodus spread to cities like Vancouver, Toronto, and Montreal. But with the tight labor force in Vancouver and language difficulties in Montreal, most settled in Toronto. Many also lived in small rural communities scattered around the country. A 1992 Canadian census estimated that 56% of women and 53% of men became permanent Canadian citizens.
Oh, here it is 40 years later. You can still see the depression of the road. This was a good place to start something new.
The house that you grew up in, it was really a nice house, but pretty basic. Wood burning stove, that was the heat. The shower was outside. There was running water, but Gary did not have an outhouse. So that was a bit unpleasant.
I nailed every single shingle on there. It was important to us to start a new life. I mean, we were not trying to avoid the fact we were Americans and we were refugee Americans, just trying to cultivate something that could grow and create foundations for a life that back in Los Angeles or San Francisco was unimaginable, completely unforeseeable. This is the living room. There's a big Ashley wood stove right here. So starting off here and having a child here with a view like that right on Great Mother Pacific, it was an intensely spiritual experience.
It was hard living there with no electricity, and your whole day was basically keeping warm and making food. You know, I look back at it now and I think, God, that was pretty crazy. I mean, you know, but it was such a beautiful place to live, so that I suppose was the trade-off, you know. Maybe there were other places with some electricity that would have been better.
Our bed was right here in front of the window. And when we first, in the first 6 months, there was a huge leak on the one side of the bed, a huge leak on the other side, and we'd listen to the rain pour down on both sides. In California, we smoked a lot of dope and took a lot of LSD, and this was very good for consciousness expansion for me. But it's still, there was an atmosphere of unreality. And the Vietnam War and all of the bullshit we had to go through politically, that had a lot of atmosphere of unreality. I mean, so there was madness and insanity on all sides, internally, externally. Well, sitting here, having a child, building a house, you can't get more solid, down to earth, practical, realistic. And I needed that.
I was running away and I wasn't running away. I left the United States because of guilt. The responsibility of all this stuff. I was running towards something positive in the end, but it wasn't all a negative move. I was also attracted to being where I am now in Canada.
I found out finally at 26, 28 years old who I really was, because the person who grew up in Pasadena, it was always something missing. You know, what am I doing here? I always felt like an alien. Starting here, all this feeling of unreality went. It was just gone.
When I look back on my life now, I know that you're there in those kinds of situations because of the conditioning that's there, the insecurities that are there, or the, you know, all that stuff that you're playing out until you wake up. And then you stop doing that to yourself. And so I guess that's why I was there, to learn that, you know. So there's all these multi-level reasons why you do things.
A month after you were born, my sister was killed. Years later, a very talented astrologer told me that during that time, if you had not been born, if I was not a new father of an infant son, I would have killed myself. This was a cradle for me, especially in those months, but overall, where Mother Nature was just holding me in this absolutely gorgeous, gorgeous place and allowing me to hurt and to accept everything and become stronger. And what I didn't know was also going on was that she, meaning Mother Earth, was healing me. And that's what that ocean does.
I also felt about that place, and I don't know what it was, but there was something about it, like this cloud, this something that didn't feel right. I always felt it was there, and then that was that cloud, and then there was the Gary cloud. It was crazy.
I was a basket case. I mean, I was totally stressed out. I'm sure that didn't help anything, the relationship or at all. But out of that, you were born.
Gary and I weren't getting along.
So why did you leave? Why did it all? No, I mean, it doesn't have to be a negative thing. It's
It
like,
was.
Do you want to talk about it, or was it something that the island was like? Was that free love, or was that just?
I don't know what free love is.
like a free lunch. There's no such thing.
What was it?
I don't know what you're asking me. I mean, after we left here, she had an affair with Ralph. I had an affair with Anne. And it was mutually understood. I don't remember us ever even talking about it. It was mutually understood. This is the process we go through in order to come apart. What didn't come apart was the conviction about taking care of you and the love for having brought someone into this world. Does that answer your question?
It's not easy finding out the reasons why your parents split up, but I did ask the questions. They were young, full of cause, and tried to create a new beginning without the aid of common elements like electricity and running water. And affairs are common on isolated islands.
I hope this microphone picks up the water birds.
But more simply, it's that my parents were just not meant to be. And it turns out they weren't alone. 9 out of 10 married couples who came to Canada during this time divorced. The result of the breakup was that by the age of 5, I had bounced around like a ping pong ball from Los Angeles to Sacramento to Vancouver and back, and lived in a homemade Volkswagen van camper and the occasional closet. But if I've learned anything during this road trip with my father, it's this. It's not the hippies' fault that my parents split up, or American consumerism, the Vietnam War, Canadian immigration policies, or my great-grandfather's clumsy gun tricks. It's just that these challenges we face in life, as painful as they seem to be, offer a chance to realize who we truly are. And if that statement isn't a concession to giving in to my hippie demons, I don't know what is.
Morning before I leave, Ralph's house, Dad's car. I don't drink coffee that often, and this is black without sugar. That combo. Ugh.
So, as I begin my journey home, I'll leave you with this. This story has a happy ending. Ralph is just a friend and not my biological father. America's conscription ended in 1973, so I didn't have to make the choices my parents did. In 1977, Jimmy Carter issued amnesty in a form of a pardon, which gave resistors a chance to go home. My parents eventually settled in Canada, where my mother wed my stepfather, and my father shacked up with my stepmother. So instead of 2 parents, I got 4. And in 1994, I met my wife Jennifer, and we had a son named Cian.
Daddy, open the door.
No way, man. And God help me if he ever makes a film about me.
I think you might agree, I'd be a whole lot better if I just buried the old me and sent it out to sea, to crash on the rocks or get stuck up in the weeds. Don't be so curious, you're always so curious, curious of all of our lives. Don't stop, don't look around, just keep your head in the clouds, and when it clears you can burn your eyes. I think you might agree, I'd be a whole lot better if I just got some more sleep. gets tough to see. We can knock down some buildings and cut down some trees. Don't be so serious, you're always so serious. You live such a serious life. Don't stop, don't look around. Just keep your head in the clouds, and when